Joining us again is our executive editor, Megha Sharma. We do know now that the death toll in eastern Donetsk has risen to 14. And given the extent of the strikes that we've seen, Megha, Trump has already warned that sanctions might come in on Russia given their bombardment. He refers to it as pounding of Ukraine. Do you think that this latest escalation might lead to Trump action sooner rather than later?
But we've seen that Trump has been threatening sanctions and tariffs all across the world, and Russia is no different. Russia continues to face huge tariffs from Europe and from America as well through under the Biden administration. But it's interesting to note that the latest statements that have been released from Ukraine and from Russia, because Russia claims that it has retaken the 3 villages in Kursk region, while Zelensky has said that because the Russian strikes have pounded eastern Ukraine, so the agenda of the Putin government continues to be to annex Ukraine, and therefore in such a situation, how can there be a discussion that can be had with all 3 parties, US, Ukraine and Russia, coming to the negotiating table and discussing peace? On the other hand, Trump, who up until 12 hours ago was wary of Ukraine and Zelensky and spoke in favor of Putin and said that it's easier for him to negotiate with Russia as compared to Ukraine, has now realized that the latest strike from Russia is in opposition to what Trump has been trying to do, which is to bring about peace as rapidly as possible. And therefore, it's obvious that his next knee-jerk reaction is going to be to threaten Russia with tariffs and sanctions. But is Russia going to succumb to these threats is the question that remains to be seen. Keeping in mind, President Putin is also in favor of Trump negotiating peace. He's more comfortable and more trustful of Trump to allow for negotiations to happen, wherein the interest of Russia and interest of President Putin are going to be taken into account, are going to be recognized. But again, it looks like a negotiation is going to take place in the coming weeks, hopefully sooner than later.
Yes, and Megha, to bring an end to this discussion, do you think that now these strikes have sort of taken place in Ukraine and the support that Trump seems to be showing Ukraine, even just slightly, do you think this will give Zelensky and his team any ammunition in their talks that they're going to hold in Saudi Arabia with the US this week coming?
Yes, it's interesting because last time around as well, when the US always had traveled to the Middle East to hold talks about the Ukraine-Russia peace plan, Zelensky was not participating, or any of Zelensky's allies and government officials or ministers were not part of it. This time around as well, there is information pouring in that Zelensky is not directly going to be involved in the talks that are going to take place in Saudi Arabia. It's an interesting choice of country that has been picked by US to decide to hold talks at a neutral ground, which is Saudi Arabia, because just a few miles away there is Turkey, who has been time and again trying to bring about truce and saying that it can be a potential peacemaker in this deal, because many months ago, when the war had just started and there had been sanctions imposed and there was a blockade that had been put by Russia on the Black Sea for traversing of for transportation of the grains, it was Turkey that had intervened in the matter. It was an intermediary and convinced Russia to open up the seas to allow for these very essential food grains to then pass through the Black Sea.
Megha Sharma, our executive editor, thank you very much for joining us. The developing situation between Russia and Ukraine.